we finally get the showdown between La Bandera Roja, David Benavidez, as he takes on the Cuban star David Morrell.
These guys have been talking shit about each other since this fight got announced. You could tell they just don't like each other. So February 1st might be a contender for Fight of the Year.
David Morrell and his team are rushing this fight a little bit. He's 11 fights in. It's a huge risk to fight David Benavidez at this point in your career.
Benavidez has been doing this for years. He's been a top guy for years.
I have yet to see one person give a prediction to Morrell, and most of it was just based off the experience. Benavidez has experience since before he was a professional.
15 years old, Benavidez was sparring Gennady Golovkin. I would be shocked if David Morrell pulls out the victory.
Naoya Inoue returned against Korean fighter Kim. This fight was not close.
If you listen to the audio, that right hand, it sounds like a bomb landed.
I mean, he did what he had to do, and now he has to look forward to bigger plans in 2025.
Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be going over Naoya Inoue's KO win over Kim, as well as Diego Pacheco's return win against Nelson, and us also giving our predictions for David Benavidez as he returns against Cuban fighter David Morrell. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, we're trying to build up a Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. Everything that I mentioned is in the link in the description below. But now diving into the episode, let's start off with Tuesday, or was it Tuesday? It was Friday. Yeah. The return of Japan's pound for pound king, Naoya Inoue, returned with a, what we expected, destructive KO win against Korean fighter Kim. This fight was not close. And rightfully, respect to Kim, like I mentioned last episode, but there's levels, and Inoue showed who he really is.
Yeah, and I mean, Kim was there to fight. He was showboating until the last punch. So you gotta respect him going in 2 weeks notice, going into the fight against Naoya Inoue, who I don't know if I would say pound for pound king, but obviously a superstar. Top 5 pound for pound fighter, and he showed no respect for Inoue. He did his best, but I mean, your best isn't enough when you're going up against a guy like Naoya Inoue.
Yeah, this is a fight that we all expected to see. The result that we all expected. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Inoue got hurt in any round. I don't think he even got touched. No did he? But yeah, I mean, he did what he had to do, and now he has to look forward to bigger plans in 2025. And I know it's expected that we are going to see him 3 times this year.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was most interested about. This fight against Kim. I feel like Inoue in his last couple of fights, he's been fighting guys that don't have very big names, especially, and I don't think it's his fault, honestly. I mean, the 122 division isn't very deep. There's not a lot of great fighters there. So I was interested to see what Inoue's plans were for 2025. And he didn't really give us much, honestly. He got into the mic and he didn't really give us much. Just basically said that 2025 is going to be his year for big fights. But we do know that he is going to be fighting in Las Vegas and also in Saudi Arabia. So those are pretty big places to fight. It's kind of becoming the mecca of boxing. Las Vegas, Saudi Arabia too, on its way. Big fights there. So I'm expecting big fights from Naoya Inoue in 2025.
Are you expecting him in MJ? Because I know Eddie Hearn, who is MJ's promoter, had a lot to say about Inoue's fight.
Eddie Hearn keeps on talking shit about Naoya Inoue. He cannot keep him out of his mouth, and I think it's smart for Eddie Hearn. Obviously, he wants that fight for his fighter that he's promoting. But for me personally, and I think I speak also for a lot of boxing fans, we do not want to watch Naoya Inoue versus MJ. What we want to see is Naoya Inoue go up to 126 and fight actual big name fighters. So I don't know. I think it is actually likely that we're going to see that fight because it sounds like the rumor going around is that Naoya Inoue is going to stay at 122. So I think we will see that fight in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the potential opponents, based on the rumors that are circulating online, are Alan Picasso for Las Vegas Mexican Star, followed by MJ in Saudi Arabia. In the third fight, supposedly, big rumors, of course, we do not know their plans, but let's say he does go up to 126 after the fight against MJ, potentially in Saudi Arabia. Third fight of the year against Nick Ball at 126, a champion.
That's amazing. Like, listen, that if that's actually true, and these rumors, you can never place 100% confidence, but if that is true and he goes up and fights Nick Ball, I mean, I think that's great. Nick Ball is also kind of the same height as Naoya. He might even be shorter, honestly. Nick Ball, what is he? 5'2", isn't he?
5'2", 3, 4, maybe around there.
No, I think he's 5'2", actually, because there was a 1 foot difference between the champions at 126.
That's crazy.
5'2" and 6'1".
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think that makes a lot of sense. And like, I know me and Pablo were talking about this when Inoue was fighting as well. Inoue looked big in there. Yeah. It looks like his body is already getting accustomed to the 126. So I know that was one of the reasons why he wanted to stay at that division, to make sure his body is fully adapting to the weight. I think it's there, honestly. It looks like he's put on the muscle. It still looks like he's still very lean. It looks like he can build his frame out a little bit more. So I really don't see any future where Naoya Inoue doesn't go up to 126 in the next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of big fights, like you said, at featherweight for him. I saw online after this fight that he had against Kim, people were saying, like, they were agreeing with what you were saying, the fact that, yes, MJ might be the other best fighter in that division, but we don't want to see that fight. And that's what people were saying. And they also criticized Eddie Hearn and MJ in the aspect that, before when Inoue first emerged into the scene, Tapales took on MJ and beat Tapales and took his belt. Why doesn't MJ get his lick back and fight Tapales, and then at least get his lick back against Tapales before stepping up against Naoya Inoue? Also, MJ has been pretty inactive over the past 2 years. I think he's only had like 2 fights within those past 2 years that Inoue has emerged into the scene at the 122. So people are blaming him for his inactivity and for his failure of at least trying to get his lick back against Tapales, and that he's only quote-unquote clout chasing Inoue just for the big money fight.
Well, that's the funny thing, because Eddie Hearn keeps on saying, Naoya Inoue has ducked MJ for so long, for like 3 times. I think he says 3 times Naoya Inoue ducked MJ. But if you actually look at it, Inoue's main objective was to get all the belts at 122. He came up to the weight class, fought Fulton, took 2 belts, and he was waiting for Tapales versus MJ, and Tapales beat MJ, and that gave the clash collision course between Tapales and Inoue. So I don't understand the narrative that Eddie Hearn is trying to push, that Inoue somehow is ducking MJ. Inoue's main objective was to get the belts, and that's what he did. He became undisputed champion in 2 fights. So I really don't understand what Eddie Hearn is talking about.
Yeah, to be honest, for me, I don't really see, whatever Eddie Hearn says, I just see it, whatever he says, he's saying it underneath the umbrella of him being the promoter, of him promoting his fighters. So, props to him. I think Eddie Hearn is one of the better promotions. Matchroom Boxing is one of the better promotions here in this current age of boxing. I think he knows what he's doing. And whether that fight is made or not, I'm not mad, because then it's still, at the end of the day, it's going to give more eyeballs on MJ, because not a lot of people know about who MJ is. So... yeah.
Well, that is a good thing, if I was a fighter, I'd want Eddie Hearn. I'd want Eddie Hearn saying what he's saying about Inoue, that Inoue's ducking me. So, yeah, I guess you can't really hate on Eddie Hearn. He's a promoter at the end of the day, and he's going to promote his fighters. But I think he's going against the current. The boxing fans, they see what's happening. They know Inoue is clearly the number 1 fighter at 122 by miles. No one in there is going to give him a very, very tough challenge. So I think the boxing fans and the boxing community wants Inoue to go up and get big fights.
Yeah, but in regards to his fight in Las Vegas, I saw a lot of people online kind of joking about it, saying that, Inoue is beating those allegations that he never fights outside of Japan because of quote-unquote roid usage.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I don't know why, they throw a lot of accusations at Inoue. I'm not sure why.
Do you know what it is? I feel like they do this a lot with like Asian fighters. They did the same thing with Manny Pacquiao. All the time they'd say, because he was going up weight classes and he kept on knocking people out. Out of nowhere, they start throwing ped allegations. They're doing the same thing with Inoue. I mean, he continues to dominate the lower weight classes. He started, I think, 113 or 115. Very, very light. He started his professional career. Now he's going up to 122, and he's doing the exact same thing he's been doing for all these years. And I think, especially, I think it's the U.S. fans, honestly, that harp on this little detail. He stays in Japan. He stays in his hometown, and they criticize him. Why doesn't he want to go fight in the U.S.? Oh, because we have strict regulations with PEDs and with drug testing. No, there's no actual evidence for that. Inoue fights in Japan because he sells out massive arenas because his fan base is in Japan. So, I mean, for him, it really doesn't make sense for him to go. And also, a lot of big names in the lower weight classes are in Japan or in Asia. Yeah. So it really makes sense career-wise for Inoue to stay in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the topic we brought up a couple months ago when we talked about the lower weight divisions. Asia is the home for these lower weight fighters, and Japan is the mecca for it. People, they're always hosting their divisions are stacked up in the lower division for these fighters. So there's a lot better money fighting in Asia and Japan more so than in the USA. But a lot of people, of course, with the whole Inoue moving up, he actually debuted at 108. So he's been small his entire career. But yeah, I guess that does make sense in the aspect of he's a man who continues to go up in division, dominates and knocks out people. And people see it as a little bit suspicious as to, okay, how is he doing this?
And I think this might be another variable as well. They look at Inoue, right? An Asian fighter. And typically, the stereotypical Asian fighter doesn't have crazy knockout power. But they see this guy Inoue. I mean, skinny, short. He's knocking out everybody. And he's knocking them out in brutal fashion. I mean, this fight against Kim, the last punch that Inoue landed, that right hand, if you listen to the audio, it sounds like a bomb landed on Kim right in his face, and he fell down. Like, this guy hits hard, and he's fast, and he's calculated. He's like one of the best fighters in the world, and his power just ceases to amaze people. So I think they're looking too much into this, and I suppose it is good for Inoue to venture into the United States, fight in Las Vegas, get a win here, so people can, even though he's done it before, once he continues to do it, I think people are finally going to start accepting him a little bit more.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it doesn't matter because a lot of the people who are talking a lot of them are just haters, and just like Eddie Hearn. I mean, he's hating a little bit because you can't deny the accolades that he's done. I mean, say what you want. I mean, I know Eddie Hearn had a lot to say about Inoue not being or should not be on the pound for pound list. Inoue is top 3 right now in the pound for pound list, and you can put him. It's either him, Usyk, or Bud Crawford. It's one of those 3. But Inoue is right there. Like, there's no denying. And a lot of these people saying, "Oh, he's on steroid use. Oh, he's too scared to come to America. Oh, he's too scared to do this, to do that." Those are just haters. I mean, no one gets to the top of their echelon, to the top of their niche, their sport, their industry, their career, without having a little bit of haters. So that proves to you, I mean, just for me in general, like, yeah, Inoue is the top guy, the big guy at that weight class. He can do whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because speaking of haters, he's managed by Top Rank, and I was on Instagram and they posted his clips of him knocking out Kim, and then they posted a post saying who's next for Inoue, and every single comment, like some of the top comments were just people hating, saying, "Oh, he's fighting nobodies, trash cans, of course expected, come up to 135 with the real fighters," stuff like that. So I don't know, when I see those types of comments online, it makes me chuckle, makes me laugh, because they're humorous, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, going up to 135, I mean, let's take it into context. Inoue, like you said, started his career at 108. I mean, how fast do you want him to go? And people might look at that and be like, "Oh, but Manny Pacquiao was able to do it." Manny Pacquiao was once in a lifetime, once in a history type of fighter. You can't expect everyone that starts at like 108, 105 to just go all the way up to 154. Not everyone is built like that. So we got to give Inoue some time. But I will push back a little bit and say Inoue definitely has to go up to 126 this year. If he doesn't go up to 126 in 2025, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed.
Well, we'll see what they decide to do. We still have plans for spring in Vegas, so that's going to be a huge event. And if it's against Alan Picasso, I mean, Mexican fans are rowdy with him as well. He's been coming up, hasn't fought anyone at that level yet. So I think he'd be way out of his depth if he faces against Inoue. But hopefully those rumors, what people are speculating to be true, or speculating in regards to Inoue's 2025 timeline, it should be pretty promising, and I'm expecting big things from him in the future. But now switching over topics, after Inoue, this past week, and we also had the return of Diego Pacheco, rising 24-year-old star. 23. Oh man, he's 23.
He's young.
Oh my gosh, 23, and he's showcasing and showing why he is one of the best fighters at 168, and he did it against a tough Nelson, trained by Bomac. He had Crawford in his corner. He had elite professional help, and maybe age caught up to him. Tough guy, but he was definitely out of his experience when it came to exchanging with the young bright star in Pacheco.
Yeah, Pacheco's future is looking very bright, honestly. I mean, 23 years old. He's already, I think, top 5 in a couple of sanctioning bodies.
Actually, I'm pretty sure it's the WBO. He's number 1.
I can check.
Let's check that, because I mean, yeah, like the future is bright for this kid. I mean, he's for some reason so young. He's been able to climb the ranks. This guy Nelson that he fought, he isn't, a glamorous fighter. He isn't a fighter that has like a very big name, but he's a tough son of a gun, bro. 36 years old, trained by Bomac, like you said. I mean, undefeated as well. Yeah. He was a tough guy for Diego Pacheco at such a young age to face. And I think it only helps Diego Pacheco to gain the experience, to gain that type of 12 grueling rounds. Pacheco has been kind of doing whatever he wants with these lower level guys, getting good KOs, being in control of the fight a lot. And with this guy Nelson, I think it's good for Pacheco to experience guys that can actually take his punch and can come forward and can continue to push against him. So I think it only serves Diego Pacheco better. I think it was a good showing, and we're going to see a lot more of him in the coming years.
So Diego Pacheco is ranked number 1 for the WBO. He is ranked number 3 in the WBC. He's not even ranked in the top 15 in the WBA, but he is ranked number 6 on the IBF. So he is in the top 10 within 3 out of the 4 organizations, and number 1 for the WBO. So it's, a lot of people were asking, okay, what's next for him? Of course, there's some things he might have to tweak, but he's young. He has a good corner with him, and I'm pretty sure he can make those adjustments. But a lot of people were throwing out Edgar Berlanga. Would be a good showcase for him. They're saying, why not, throw him with Caleb Plant or what's the dude who he fought recently? McCumbee, yes. Those types of fighters and other big names at 168. And I think it's true. I think it's time maybe now to kind of step him up to a more bigger fight, a more lucrative fight. And I'm sure he's also looking for that. I mean, he said he wants the top smoke out of any of the top 5 guys in the division. And if it all goes well, because he's also claimed that they sent a contract to Christian Mbilli, but they heard nothing. They heard nothing back from them. So he's accusing them of ducking. So Mbilli would be a good showcase. I mean, there's a lot of big names, decent fighters at the division, and I think it is time for Diego Pacheco to be stepped up to that level.
Look, for me, I mean, Eddie Hearn, he promotes Diego Pacheco, and I think he said that in 1 or 2 fights he'd be ready for a big fight or a fight with Canelo. So with that being said, let's say in 2 fights, Diego Pacheco, he is within the top 10 out of 3. He's within the top 10 contenders, so he can fight for a belt within those 3 sanctioning bodies. Within 2 fights, do you think he'd be ready to take on any of the champions? Because I mean, WBO, it's vacant, right?
No, it's the
Skull.
The IBF. Skull took the IBF when they went vacant.
So the WBO is
Canelo has 3 out of the 4.
Yeah.
Besides,
So that's what it is. So in 2 fights, is he ready for a belt then?
I mean, okay, this is one thing that I get scared about when especially such young fighters start having a lot of success. Pacheco is 23 years old. There's no need to rush it. You know, he obviously has a lot of skills. He obviously is going to have a very bright future. I mean, Canelo, who right now is the king of 168. What is he, 35, 36?
Probably 34.
Oh, I thought he was a little bit. I thought he was 35.
Nelson is 36.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even matter.
Canelo.
Oh, Canelo?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even matter. I'm simply saying, like, there's no need to rush. 23 years old, you have plenty of time to grow. This fight, I think, serves as a great experience for Pacheco. I personally think that Pacheco should fight guys like Nelson for maybe 2, 3, 4 years. You know, fight the top 10 contenders. You know, fight Berlanga, Mbilli, Munguia, those type of fighters. I don't think he should go. I don't think, honestly, he should have his eyes set on Canelo anytime in the future. I mean, Canelo is still the king. Canelo, I mean, in his last 2 fights, he's fought those young, up-and-coming fighters. You know, Edgar Berlanga, Jaime Munguia. And what did he do to them? Beat them pretty easily. So I don't think there's any... Pacheco should not have his eyes set on Canelo. I think he should have his eyes set on just continuing to improve, get experience, you know, get those 12 rounds in. And, you know, if he does that, I think he's definitely going to be able to become a world champion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the best fight for him, though, would be, of course, a Puerto Rico fight with Berlanga would probably be the more ideal cash money. But I think the Christian Mbilli fight, Diego Pacheco taking on Christian Mbilli would be a very entertaining fight. Christian Mbilli does have some questions around him. He fought against Derevyanchenko, and that fight was very competitive until Derevyanchenko blew out his arm. And but yeah, he was not able to take out Derevyanchenko. And we're talking about Derevyanchenko, who's been in dog fights and a man who's taken damage against some of the best fighters in the world during his time. And Mbilli got criticized a lot for not being able to close the show and to stop the aging fighter of Derevyanchenko. So there's a lot of questions around Christian Mbilli. Diego Pacheco and his team are accusing Mbilli of ducking, of not, reporting anything back about a potential matchup. So if anything, Christian Mbilli, if he wants to shut some mouth, if he wants to end the critique from the fans and from Team Pacheco, then why not try to set up a fight between Diego Pacheco and Christian Mbilli? I mean, they're rightfully ranked 1 and 2 on the WBO. It can be made interim. Boom. There you go. There's your interim champion who can potentially challenge Canelo sometime in the later future.
Yeah, for me, that question, look, I don't think in 1 or 2 fights Diego Pacheco would be ready for a title belt. I still think, don't get me wrong, I mean, when I look at Diego Pacheco and his record and just the way he's come up from the amateurs to now his position within the pros, this guy is a future world champion at 168. And if he decides to move up to 175, he could do that, in my opinion. He
definitely has the frame for it, but he is 6'4". I mean, he can definitely build his frame.
Yeah, and he's still young. At 23 years old, he hasn't even filled up into that man body that, once men get to that age of 27, their body really acclimates to that, and he's really what you call his prime age. I look, within his fight against Nelson, I mean, I don't think the scorecards do justice of that fight with him and Nelson. I had that fight 8-4. So the judges had it 9-3. That's fine. I had it. My scorecard was pretty close to one of the judges, Tim Cheetah. He had Nelson winning one of the early rounds, and then he gave the last 2 to Nelson. The only reason why I bring that up is because the championship rounds, Pacheco, after the round 10, he had that shit in the bag. And in the last 2 rounds, all Nelson did was he fought based solely on experience, but mostly on heart. And he won those last 2 rounds. And so that makes me think a little bit like, okay, maybe for the most part, he dominated the fight, but I think he still needs a little bit more experience against guys who are either ex-world champions or
tough sons of bitches.
Yeah. Those top elite contenders in his weight division.
Yeah, it's completely right. I mean, those championship rounds are mega important, especially if you're going to be challenging for a world title. So I think, Pacheco, it was all in all, overall, good performance. But, I mean, you can definitely see a lot of improvements in Pacheco's game, especially his gas tank, didn't hold up that well. And it's not going to fly well if you're going to fight big guys like Caleb Plant and all those type of guys. So I think he has to take his time, 23 years old, get acclimated to that type of competition. And you're just going to see good things.
Mm-hmm. So that was Diego Pacheco's win over Steven Nelson this past weekend, where he cemented himself as a top 5 fighter in the weight division. So bright future, 23 years old, 6'4". I mean, that he's got a lot of potential to not just stay at 168, but move up divisions. So that was the return of Diego Pacheco as he got the win over Steven Nelson. Now, going to the main event, we finally get the showdown between La Bandera Roja, David Benavidez, as he takes on the Cuban star David Morrell. The battles of Davids right here. And not only are we, introduced with such a enticing main event, we also have a pretty good card. We have the rematch featuring Brandon Figueroa as he takes on Stephen Fulton at 126 now. Their last fight was at 122, super bantamweight. Now they're up at featherweight for the rematch. We also have the return of Pitbull as he takes on Fierro. And El Mono Ramos is taking on Banana Man Rosario. So we got a good card to look forward to, but for sure, 100%. The brewing, the marination of the main event, the spicy, the drama, the tension that's been building up for this main event is finally here. And we're finally going to get the answer of who is the real David.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think this fight is the biggest fight of the year, the first biggest fight of the year. Stacked undercard. This undercard is amazing. We got, Pitbull and all them type of fighters. And the main event, I mean, these guys have been talking shit about each other since this fight got announced. And you could tell they just don't like each other. So I'm expecting fireworks for this main event. And I think, honestly, we're going to see this early in February 1st might be a contender for fight of the year.
Yeah, for me, this is such a good card. Yes, from bottom to top, it's such a good card. I mean, you said it yourself. I mean, it's one of those cards that, as a casual fan, you have to pay for the pay-per-view. It's one of those cards.
Yeah, in regards to the main event though, look, I've had talks with people at the gym about this fight. Everyone's super excited about it, so we've been talking about it. And I think one of the big things that I've kind of noted from people who have interacted when it comes to this fight is David Morrell's hype. People truly believe that he has the skills necessary to beat David Benavidez, and that he could possibly pull off the upset. Because let's keep in mind, David Benavidez is the favorite coming into this fight. I mean, he's a lot more experienced. He's fought against better opposition than David Morrell, and also I believe David Benavidez at this point should be the favorite, and he is considered, the Mexican monster, the man who, quote unquote, Canelo is ducking. There's so much hype around David Benavidez. So David Morrell, even though he is the underdog, a lot of people who I've talked with about this fight truly believe that he has the skills to beat him.
That's actually very surprising because for me personally, I think this is I'm leaning a lot towards Benavidez, honestly. I think, listen, both of these guys only had a debut at 175 in their last fight. And both of them got criticized. A lot of people said they underperformed respectively. But David Benavidez was fighting someone who an ex-opponent of Artur Beterbiev. I think he's Ukrainian, I believe. Yeah. He's an Eastern European guy, I know for sure. He's a tough guy. I mean,
if I'm not mistaken, he used to be an ex-world champion as well.
Yeah, so exactly. Ex-world champion, tough guy, Eastern European, good skills, and it was also David Benavidez's debut, and he beat him very, very comfortably. Now, for David Morrell, he debuted, and he fought,
Hot Rod, man.
Hot Rod. You know what I'm saying? The opponent, I feel like the level of opposition between each fighter was very, very different. And David Morrell also looked very, very bad. I don't know, people at 168, when he was at 168, they were saying, this guy's a power puncher from if he catches you, you're going to die and you're going to do this and this. I mean, he moved up to 175. He was catching Hot Rod and nothing really remarkable. So honestly, I think David Benavidez has a very good chance of winning this fight. I just feel his experience and also his skill level. Honestly, his skill level is very underrated, and I think he's definitely going to show it this Saturday.
Yeah, for me, when this fight first got announced, I thought it was going to be a 50-50 fight, and up until like recently, I thought it was a 50-50 fight, but I'm gonna lean a little bit more towards Benavidez, so it's 55-45 for me. The reason why I give Benavidez a little bit more of the edge is because he's been fighting for a long time. He's got the experience. He's been a world champion, and so he has all that for him. Not only that, but also a lot of people within the boxing world, they gave the predictions. Everyone, I have yet to see one person give a prediction to Morrell, and most of it was just based off, the reasoning was just mostly based off of just the experience. Benavidez has experience since before he was a professional. He was sparring guys that like Kevin Kelly, Golovkin.
He was at 15 years old. Benavidez was sparring Gennady Golovkin. Yeah. I mean, how impressive is that? You know how scared I'd be at 15 years old to spar Triple G? Like, what?
In his prime, too.
Yeah.
This is before anyone knew who Triple G was.
Hell no.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I gave a little bit more of the edge to Benavidez. But, I mean, Morrell comes from the school of Cuba. You know what I'm saying? That Cuban school of boxing. You can never count that out. I mean, there's been guys like, back in 2013, Donito Donaire fought Rigondeaux. And this is a fight that Rigondeaux he didn't have, just like Morrell. He just doesn't have at that time, he didn't have the experience like Donaire. And yet he still beat him pretty easy. So, I mean, just based off just the school of boxing from Cuba. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that on Saturday.
Well, yeah, the thing with David Morrell is he doesn't fight like a typical Cuban. He's not a typical... He loves his power. He loves going forward. He loves landing big shots. And so he's more of a power puncher. He's not really a boxer. We haven't really seen... To give him his credit, we haven't really seen any like crazy boxing skills from him. Maybe he has them. Maybe he doesn't. We haven't seen it so far. But I just think it definitely comes down to the experience. Like you said, Benavidez has been doing this for years. He's been a top guy for years. And David Morrell, a very bright contender, but that's all he is. And that's all he's been, a contender. He's never stepped up to the level that David Benavidez has been at. So that's why, I'd be shocked, honestly. I would be shocked if David Morrell pulls out the victory.
Yeah, since when this fight was announced, since the beginning, I've said David Benavidez, I got him beating David Morrell. Yeah, just like you guys said, just the experience. I think the levels that he's fought against this opposition are a lot more respectable in regards to Morrell's resume. Also, I feel David Morrell and his team are rushing this fight a little bit. He's 11 fights in. This is a very, very dangerous fight for David Morrell. Of course, he can pull off the upset. He's got the skills. I do think he has the skills for that. He's got the power too. And now that they've had time to acclimate at 175, we might see a better version from both fighters. But yeah, I believe that Morrell and his team kind of rushed this one a bit too quick, and it might come back to bite them in the ass if anything. But David Benavidez, there's way too much hype for him at the moment. Like I said earlier, he's the one that everyone dubs as the one who Canelo ducked and continues ducking. He's the Mexican monster.
Well, is there some truth to that?
There is truth to that. And
Canelo himself said, "Give me 200 million and then I'll fight Benavidez."
No, he said, "Give me 200 million and I'll think about it."
Well, they're not wrong, of course. If Canelo could have made the fight happen whenever he wanted, he just has to say yes to it. But it's a huge risk to fight David Benavidez at this point in your career. Also, Canelo just seems to be a bit more settled in just making big money fights, like Crawford. The whole Crawford issue or the whole Crawford agreement for September seems to be kind of nearly set in stone at this point. But And also David Benavidez should be focusing on just staying at 175 because they even announced winner of this fight gets a shot at the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev. So we can probably see undisputed at 175. And what better? I mean, if I was David Benavidez, I could go undisputed at 175 or chase that Canelo rematch or the Canelo fight. And if I was David Benavidez, I mean, yes, the Canelo fight, lucrative, big name, big money, but legacy is there at 175. If you're able to get past Morrell, you get a shot at the kingpin at 175, Dimitri Bivol or Arthur Beterbiev. And those either two matchups that are fire, man. They're huge fights against big names as well. That's going to be a money fight. Turkey's going to splash money for that one. Having Saudi Arabia, if I was David Benavidez, I would forget Canelo. Like, let's move on from that. Let me settle at 175 and make legacy here.
Yeah, I think that's true. Canelo is in the past for Benavidez, and I don't think. I mean, even the talks of them fighting died down recently. You know, I think the community was pushing for that fight like a year ago, 2 years ago, like really strong, and I think Canelo was feeling that too. You know, they kept on asking him. Reporters kept on asking Canelo, what's up with that David Benavidez fight? And, you know, he'd always dodge the answer. He'd always say this and that, excuses or whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, for Benavidez, he has a clear goal now. 175, I think he has a perfect place. Beat David Morrell and then talk and promote yourself for the chance to fight Beterbiev or Bivol. I mean, it just makes sense. And like you said, that is a legacy fight. That's accolades. You know, you're fighting for undisputed. If you win, the upside is 100, and if you lose, people aren't gonna hold it against you. Bivol or Beterbiev, these guys are legends right now in boxing. So I think it's for Benavidez. He should definitely go there.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Benavidez has mentioned the fact that at the moment he's putting that Canelo fight like on the back end. He wants to do legacy fights at the moment, and then possibly go for all the belts, do some type of catch weight at 168, 175. If Benavidez is able to get through Morrell, and then he's able to get all the belts at 175, and then do like a mega matchup with Canelo, and all the glory, all the belts. And when he said that, I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, this dude is he definitely knows what he's doing. He understands the position that he's in right now, and I think that's what he's gonna go for. That's what's gonna happen."
Predictions for this Saturday for David Benavidez as he takes on David Morrell.
Yeah, I think I made it pretty clear already. I mean, I'm going Benavidez all the way. La Bandera Roja, you know what I'm saying? Mexican monster, or I guess monster now because, you know, he's only like, what is he, half Mexican or quarter Mexican?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, yeah, he just got that nickname from Mike Tyson. So, but yeah, I think Benavidez has a very, very big chance of winning. I really cannot see a world where Morrell wins. Benavidez just has too much for him. So I'm expecting a decision victory for David Benavidez.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna be the crazy one. I'm still predicting David Benavidez to win, but he's stopping David Morrell this weekend. He is stopping, and we're talking about the Mexican monster, or not? I don't even want to call him that anymore. Right? He is La Bandera Roja.
I think that nickname is better either way.
La Bandera Roja.
Bandera Roja. That shit sounds just fire.
Yeah. Hopefully, you know, I'm just gonna say he's gonna knock him out. He's gonna stop him, and after this fight, he's gonna go look for undisputed at 175. So those were our official predictions for the David Benavidez and David Morrell battle of the Davids. Real quick, do you guys want to talk a little bit about the Figueroa, Fulton, and the undercard stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it.
We can talk briefly about it. First off, the El Mono Ramos returns against Banana Man Rosario. In my opinion, this is kind of an easy matchup for El Mono Ramos.
It's not an easy. It's a mismatch.
It's a huge mismatch. Opinion. Yeah, I mean, Rosario, he fought on Pro Box, and he looked really gassed. I mean, he's clearly not the same fighter back in 2017, years ago, man. He's clearly not that Banana Man that we fell in love with. This should be an easy demolition job for El Mono.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, I used to love Banana. I remember, when he beat J-Rock, became the champion. I was in, you know what I'm saying? I was like, let's go, Banana. I'm going, this is my guy. And he just gets, a weird jab body shot by Charlo, and Banana's whole career just takes a turn. And so, I mean, as much as I like Rosario, I definitely think that you're dumb if you think that he's in his prime. I think he's definitely past it. He also got knocked out against Mendoza. I mean, it's not looking good for him, and I think Ramos has a lot of upside to win this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, I like this fight because I feel like Rosario is gonna fight up until Ramos just beats him. I think it's gonna be competitive until it's not. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But yeah, Ramos has bigger things. He has bigger fish to fry, and I think this is gonna be a good fight for him to kind of like get his name a little bit more out there, a little bit more exposure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, because he fought Jarrett Hurd on Pro Box, and I remember we were watching that fight, but I kept, people's reaction was like similar to mine in the aspect that it felt like watching two kind of like old fighters,
Two uncles.
fight, and
Two drunk uncles.
it was like slow paced and stuff. I mean, it was clearly not the same two fighters that we were so accustomed to, and they also ended in a draw either way. So, Banana Man I feel is coming in to be as a sacrifice for El Mono, who is trying to build up his name once again at 154. But we'll see how that fight goes. I'm predicting El Mono Ramos to stop him, actually. And I like El Banana, man. He gets his power from bananas. Next up, we have Pitbull against Fierro. Okay, first off, Pitbull, man, the narrative around Pitbull has completely changed now. They're all just calling them one-dimensional. We talked about this earlier, too, in one of our past episodes. But, yeah, the whole narrative after the Rayo Valenzuela fight, people have just turned on him. And it's crazy how, he came up against Gervonta Davis, and they were saying, oh, like, he beat Tank. He beat Tank. He's the next big Mexican star. And then he got, like, those other two more wins on his belt, and they were, like, absolutely like demolition jobs, and the hype for Pitbull Cruz kept on building until he fought Giovanni Cabrera. And that's when we started seeing or asking questions about Pitbull, saying, is he really that good? Because Cabrera should have been stopped, but he made it difficult, a tough night for Pitbull. It didn't seem like Pitbull was able to implement like what he wanted to do. Fast forward to Rolly, and the hype came back. People were saying, "Oh, this is the man. We want that Gervonta Davis rematch." And then Rayo Valenzuela came and just outboxed him, simply outboxed him. And now the narrative has changed once again to Pitbull's one-dimensional. Pitbull Cruz said that Rayo Valenzuela was running around the whole time. They don't like runners, stuff like that. So it's just kind of deflecting on the loss. But Pitbull Cruz, his career has been up and down recently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why Pitbull keeps on saying that. I mean, running. Listen, that's not running. That's boxing. That's on your toes. That's hit and not get hit. So I don't know what he's talking about. And honestly, I think another aspect of this is it was supposed to be Ryan Garcia versus Pitbull Cruz.
Well, for later.
For later. But it was supposed to be Ryan Garcia for later, obviously. And Pitbull Cruz actually commented on, what happened, why did the fight fall through, and he basically said that the Ryan Garcia's camp was trying to get him to sign very quickly, and even though they knew that Pitbull had a fight, for February 1st, so Pitbull really wasn't comfortable signing that quickly, and he said he'd sign whenever he's ready. And Ryan Garcia was just like, okay, let's go somewhere else, and they went to go get Rolly. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. For Pitbull Cruz, I mean, his hype is definitely very low right now at the moment. I think if he wants to get his name back and he wants to get the reputation and get the ball rolling again for big fights, he has to get a KO.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't really know too much about his opponent. I mean, he's a tough warrior, a Mexican warrior. But I mean, Pitbull Cruz is just on a higher level than him. And I think right now the narrative has definitely changed. A lot of people are just calling Pitbull just a Chihuahua now because it seems as though he ducks and he's just one dimensional. And yeah, I think a lot of the hype train has left the station. So now, I mean, I'm expecting Pitbull to get this KO victory.
Yeah, he's kind of obligated to win in order for him to keep his name in the light as one of the top fighters at 140. So if anything, Pitbull should be feeling some pressure, and if he wants a get back against El Rayo or against another champion at 140, then he has to win this weekend. Going to the co-main event, we have the rematch between Brandon Figueroa as he takes on Stephen Fulton. Now, this first fight, 122, very controversial, very close. And it was so divided online whether who won. Did Figueroa deserve the win, or did Stephen Fulton do enough to get the victory? And I guess now we are getting a more resounding answer or clear answer in the rematch, this time at featherweight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this fight because the first fight was amazing, back and forth. Figueroa made the fight dirty, like he likes it. On the inside, throwing a lot of punches, and Stephen Fulton, it looks like he wanted that fight as well. So I'm interested to see what the game plan is for this fight, for this rematch. Because Figueroa, I mean, he's a one-trick pony. He's going to do what he's going to do. Go forward, throw a lot of punches, be aggressive. Same thing. For Stephen Fulton, I mean, he got his ass whooped against Inoue at 122, made him go up to 126. Let's see if he's gonna change anything up, So I'm excited to see what goes on in this fight, and honestly, I'm edging it a little bit towards Figueroa. I just think Figueroa got a number on Fulton.
Yeah, for me, I mean, what is it? It's revenge or repeat. I mean, the first fight was so close, and a lot of people weren't really happy with the decision. I know Figueroa wasn't happy with that decision as well, but I mean, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I was surprised that, Figueroa, given his stature, he was able to make 122 for a very long time. He's such a tall dude. I think now at 126, I think he's going to feel a lot more comfortable, and I think he's going to be a lot more powerful, and I think he's going to be a lot more ferocious as well, and I think that might play into a factor come Saturday night. So I'm going to go for Figueroa.
Yeah, this is an interesting fight because Figueroa has already had a couple fights at 126 and has kind of already acclimated his body at that weight division, whereas Stephen Fulton fought once already at 126 and he got dropped, and he won a very close fight, a split decision. So there's a lot of questions around Stephen Fulton. People were claiming that maybe the fight against Inoue has ruined Stephen Fulton, based on his last performance against Carlos Castro, and when he debuted at 126, he got dropped, and the fight was close. So people are asking, does Stephen Fulton still got it? Words of Teofimo Lopez. But yeah, so there's a lot of questions for Stephen Fulton that needs to be answered, and I think that going up against Figueroa at 126 might be a mistake for him, and he might. I'm just saying this right now. I think Brandon Figueroa is gonna stop him this fight. I think he's gonna stop Stephen Fulton. Stephen Fulton. I agree with some of the fans that maybe the fight against Inoue took a toll on Stephen Fulton, maybe physically and mentally. So I think this Figueroa fight is a very dangerous fight for Stephen Fulton, and I edge it towards Figueroa to stop him even. But that was the entire card for this weekend's showdown, headlined by David Benavidez, La Bandera Roja, as he takes on David Morrell. Let us know down below, who are you guys predicting to win the main event? Do you think that David Morrell has the skills to pull off the upset, or do you think that David Benavidez has way too much experience on the young fighter? Also, let us know about Naoya Inoue. Are you excited about his return back to the States? And also about a potential fight at 126, debuting against perhaps champion Nick Ball. Let us know what you guys are thinking. Make sure to like and comment, and follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, TikTok, and Instagram. Lastly, don't forget to join our Discord. We're trying to build up a community, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. But this was Pablo, and I am with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.